So you meant to give us the introductory remark.
Okay, so I'd like to thank everyone for coming here. It's going to be a great time with the guests and also the guest speakers and the presenters that we're going to have during this webinar. The topic of this year's webinar, as we already know, is that seeking a solid education in a liquid society. And I think that these two words, the part of the solid education, at least that all-around education, and the liquid society that we live in is something that has affected everyone, at least, especially this pandemic, and not so post-pandemic because we are still living in that era. But some cultural traits has also manifested during this period. And I think there are some of the things we're going to talk about, and some of the presenters will also touch on. I'd like to welcome Alexandra Harvard. This is the first time that we are meeting virtually. I've read a couple of his books, at least the character accounts. And we're going to also have other people. We have Honorable Justice Oguabo, who is the judge of the High Courts here in England. And we also have Rufai, who was earlier, I think he was with us in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, 2019, during the physical that we've had. And we'll also welcome all the presenters, the guests. We also welcome all the presenters and the guests who are here with us, and especially the students who will join us in this period of presentation. And I'll think that at that, I'll especially like to introduce the team, Joshua Machuku, Olusegun Oshonoye, who we have met already, Eche Mbadi, Valentine Oko, and Twedon, who have been behind making this a success. And I'll especially like to also welcome Dr. Paul Abba, who was the one who invited the Alexandra Harvard, who delivered the keynote address. And at that, I'll leave Alexandra Harvard to give us the keynote presentation. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, IK.
Can you give me access, guys?
Thank you very much, IK, for that brief. Okay, yes, give me a minute, sorry. Thank you very much, IK, for the brief introduction. So we're going to go over now to the keynote. So the keynote is going to be taken by Alexandra Harvard. His Harvard is spelled H-A-V-A-R-D. Dutch system. He was born and raised in Paris and is a graduate of one of the France's leading law schools. He worked as a lawyer in Paris, Strasbourg, and Helsinki for many years before discovering his mission to ignite hearts for greatness and work to raise up a new generation of virtuous leaders. His books, Created for Greatness, From Temperate to Character, and Free Heart, have been translated into 20 languages. Harvard has co-founded Virtuous Leadership Institute around the world, except in Nigeria. He has traveled to many countries in the world except Nigeria. So we hope that soon we're going to have him in Nigeria. Please welcome me in joining Alexander Harvard for his keynote address.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very delighted. It's an honor for me to be with you today. This is the first time I address people from Nigeria, although I have had you in my mind and in my heart for many decades, for a very long time. I know Africa because I was used to go every year to Kenya, Uganda, so I know East Africa. But unfortunately, I've never been in West Africa, but this is something we should correct very soon after the pandemic is over. So As you know, I am the founder of the Virtuous Leadership Institute, of the Virtuous Leadership System. I was a lawyer for many years in different countries. Now I have been teaching virtuous leadership all over the world in many languages, and especially through Zoom during those last years, through the webinars. So I hope it's going to work well. I am now in Moscow, where I have been for 1 year because I cannot get out of this country, because if not, I cannot get in because of pandemia. So I am in Moscow and I'm talking to you, and I've been many times at Univ, so I know very well what the spirit of the organization of this project. And today I would like to speak to you about something beautiful, which is powerful. In fact, it's called magnanimity. So I hope you see the slides. I'm going to work with slides. I'm used to show slides. I just want to be sure that you see it. Can you confirm, Joshua, that people see the slide?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. It's practicing magnanimity.
Yes, we can see your slides.
You can see them?
Great. Yes, we
see
can.
it.
Okay, if there is a technical problem, just tell me. One day in Finland, I gave a talk for 1 hour, and at the end, students told me the microphone was not working. So they didn't hear anything, and nobody stopped me. They just let me speak 1 hour, and in the end, they said, well, we didn't get anything because the microphone was not working. So I hope you are not going to be these kind of people. So I'm going to speak about magnanimity. Why did I choose this topic of magnanimity? I chose the topic of magnanimity for you because magnanimity is the most specific virtues of leaders, and it has a lot to do with education. I'm used to say my students that education comes from the word educare, and this word educare comes from another word, which is educere. Educere means to bring out the best thing that are in people. So magnanimity is very much about educere. It's about bringing out the best thing that is in people. It is the virtue of greatness. And I want you and I want myself to be a great person. I want greatness for my life. I want greatness for people. I want you to be leaders, and I want myself to be a leader. And to be a leader leadership is about achieving greatness by bringing out the greatness in others. And this, as you said, is immediately directly related to education. Because what do educators do? Educators achieve greatness by bringing out the greatness in others. So the thing is about, you're sure you have to close microphone of all the people that are not speaking. Okay, guys, you hear me well. Okay, so I go on. So the thing I was saying is that I'm going to speak about greatness in a very concrete way. I want you to understand what this is about. So magnanimity is the virtue of people that are striving for great things. It has two dimensions, the dimension of contemplation and action. You and I, we have to be people of contemplation and people of action. It's not easy because some of us, by temperament, biological temperament, we are directed towards contemplation, and others who are directed towards action. And these are very different things. But the good thing with the virtue of magnanimity is that it makes you a philosopher and a doer at the same time. It's not easy, but it's the best, it's the most powerful thing that the virtue of magnanimity operates. It makes you a doer and a philosopher at the same time, I repeat. So people with deep contemplation, deep reflection, depth in their soul, depth in their heart, depth in their intelligence, and at the same time, people oriented towards action. So this is what I want to speak about, contemplation and action. So contemplation, as you see on the left of the slide, is to be mindful of your personal dignity. It's to know that you are not a chimpanzee, you're not an orangutan, you are a human being with a spirit. You're a child of God, a daughter of God. You are you have an incredible dignity. You are your dignity. Then Magnanimity is also about discovering your strength and talents. So it's not just about being aware of your dignity, of a spiritual being, of a child of God. It's also to be aware of the talents and the strength that you have. And magnanimity is very much about exploring your dreams and visions. So it's about dreaming. It's about having dreams in life. This is what we call the contemplative aspect of magnanimity. And this contemplative aspect should be transformed immediately into action. Action. You have to affirm your dignity. You have to embrace your strength and talents, and you have to pursue your mission. So magnanimity is very much about transforming your dreams into a mission. Many people can dream, but they don't have missions in life. And I'm here to tell you guys, you need to have a mission. You have to discover your mission. The mission is the very specific thing that you have to do in your life. It is something you do every day, but it is something that is about doing. It's not about being, it's about doing. So leaders are people that are transforming their dreams into mission. So this is what is the heart of virtue of magnanimity, the virtue of philosophers that are at the same time doers. This is a pyramid, the beautiful pyramid. It's very static, it's beautiful, the pyramid of leadership. You see that the heart, the foundation of leadership are the four cardinal virtues: justice, self-mastery, courage, and prudence. Those four virtues give you the capacity to do certain things, to make the right decisions, to run risks and stay the course, to direct passions, and to give everyone his due. This is about the foundation of leadership. But these are the virtues fundamentally rooted in the intellect and the will. Here on the bottom of the pyramid, we have the self-knowledge stuff, which is the virtue of humility, and I'm not going to speak about today. But what is important, I want you to look at the top of the pyramid. You have what we call the active heart. This is the essence of leadership. It's magnanimity, striving towards great things, and fraternal humility, which is about serving others. So we're speaking now about that. What does it mean to be a magnanimous person in practice? And I repeat, this is the first specific virtue of leaders. We have to be people of greatness. If not, there is no leadership. If you're just a servant of the others, you are not a leader. You have to have greatness in your life. You have to look for greatness in the life of others. And of course, you have to direct this greatness toward the service of others. But the service of others comes after. First, there should be a vision of what you are, of your talents, of your strength, a dream that you transform into a mission. Let's see more concretely, what does this mean? In order to be very concrete, I want to speak to you during a few minutes about the different temperaments, because each one of us, we have a specific biological temperament, which means that the way to practice the virtue of magnanimity is going to be very different from one another. The choleric people are the people that are biologically directed towards action. They're action-oriented. For these people, what is the challenge in terms of magnanimity? I guess among us, we have many choleric people. Choleric people are doers, people that are born doers, people that are born managers, people that know how to move things forward. These are what we call the choleric people. It's biological. You did nothing to be a choleric person. It's temperament is something native. It's something biological, something innate. Choleric people, in order to practice magnanimity, they need to understand that they have a tendency towards blind activism. People that are choleric have a tendency to do a lot of things all the time, but they have a tendency to forget why they are doing those things. You get it? So if you're a choleric, you need to think about the meaning of your doing, because not any kind of doing is a magnanimous doing, magnanimous action. Then you have the melancholic people. Melancholic people are idea-oriented by nature. Those people have no problem with contemplation because they are used to reflect, they are used to be deep, they are used to be aware of their dignity. The problem those people may have, the challenge, is going to be action. Melancholic people are not oriented towards action. So they will have to develop the virtue of courage, the virtue of audacity, the virtue of boldness in order to transform their dreams into action. Then you have the sanguine people. The sanguine people, and you have many sanguine people in Africa. Sanguine people are people-oriented. People who love people, people who spend time with people, people who enjoy being with people, people who achieve their humanity in their relation with the others. So those sanguine people, the difficulty they have is to be stable. The difficulty they have is to be endurant. The difficulty they have is to do things until the end. It's not to stop the job until it is done. So sanguine people have a tendency not to finish the job. They have a difficulty with perseverance, with patience, with stability, with loyalty, with all those virtues that are related to time. So for a sanguine person, to become a magnanimous person, to become a great human being, means to develop the virtue of endurance, which is the part of the virtue of courage. It is a passive courage, which is the capacity to stay the course till the end, because you cannot be a magnanimous person if you don't have the virtue of endurance. Magnanimity is not about dreams. It's about transforming dreams into action, and it's about achieving the dream. It's not about dreaming and beginning the dream or beginning to implement the dream. It's about dreaming, implementing the dream, and finishing the dream. So it's about achieving the dream. It's about doing until the end. So sanguine people are challenged in terms of magnanimity and greatness by action, by not beginning action, but by finishing the action. Melancholic people have no problem in perseverance, but they have a lot of problem by beginning. It's hard for them to begin. But for the sanguine, it's not hard to begin. What is hard is to finish. Then you have the phlegmatic people. The phlegmatic people are peace-oriented. They are very rational. Their attitude towards life, their approach to life is very rational, very scientific. They are very peaceful. They are dispassionate. They are very, very kind human beings, and we love them all. The difficulty with the virtue of magnanimity for these people is that they don't dream. They are not used to dream, because the dream for them is something not scientifical. It is something not rational. So the phlegmatic people, they are used to go along with the status quo and conform to the expectations and goals of those around them. And this is no good. This is no good. This is a natural tendency of people that are phlegmatic by nature. So phlegmatic people need to remember, I need really to make an effort to dream. These guys have problems not in dreaming, but in transforming the dream into action, the melancholic. These people have a problem, which is about, how do I dream? I need to learn to dream. I am not used to dream. I am too rational. I am down earth. I don't like dreams, but I need to dream about myself, and I need to dream about the people I serve. I need to have a project for them. You get it? So look, I'm making things very practical for you. Each one of you has to spend time thinking about, what is your biological temperament? Dominant temperament and secondary temperament. And then you have to think about the challenges you're going to face in terms of growing in the virtue of magnanimity. It's a whole science, but you have to begin with this. Try to determine your specific biological temperament. And then you will discover the specific virtues you have to develop in order to overcome the weaknesses of your temperament. And this is the beginning of everything. If you have no clue about your personal biological temperament, growth is impossible, because you have no understanding of what are the very specific virtues that are a challenge in your life. For the choleric, it's going to be humility. For the melancholic, it's going to be audacity. For the sanguine, it's going to be perseverance, endurance. For the phlegmatic, it's going to be very much the virtue of magnanimity itself, the virtue of greatness, because I repeat, they have a tendency towards pusillanimity, small-mindedness, status quo. Okay, guys? So magnanimity in practice, what does this mean? I checked the time. Yes, we have 10, 15 minutes more. So the first thing you need to remember is I am aware of my dignity as a human being and of the power of my mind, heart, and will. I am aware of my personal freedom. We live in a world where people want you not to be human beings. People want to destroy your dignity. People want to make you a consumer. Consumer. That's the life. That's the life in which we're facing nowadays. It is many people want us to be small people. People in the ideology and people in business are very much interested in you becoming a consumer or a small-minded person, someone that has no dreams, someone to which you will sell a dream, but that will not be your dream. It will be the dream of those people. So the first thing in terms of greatness is to think about, who am I? Do I have a vision of my dignity? Do I have a vision of my freedom? Do I have a vision of my spirit, of my condition of a child of God? All those things are very, very important. The capacity to say, I know who I am, I know what I want, I know my personal dignity. This is the beginning of developing the virtue of magnanimity that will transform you into great people. I have been called to do great things, above all, to develop my personality and that of those around me. This is a very important thing. Greatness is about you. It's not about the 2 towers you're going to build in Manhattan. That is not greatness. Greatness is not about conquering the whole world for your business products. That's not greatness. Greatness is you and your people. Greatness is your growth. Greatness is your capacity to overcome the limitation imposed on you by society, by the culture, by political correctness. The greatness is your education. Education is your greatness. Your personal growth is your greatness. The only greatness is spiritual. It's about education. It's about growing as a human being. This is what greatness is about. It's not about conquering the whole world for your business products or for your political ideologies. This is not greatness. So remember always, when we speak about magnanimity, we're speaking about spiritual growth. We're speaking about having a plan for our lives, a project for our development, and a project for the development of the people we serve. Look at this guy. This guy on the left is a friend of mine, Francois Michelin. He was during 45 years the boss of Group Michelin, which is the #1 in the world in the tire industry. I met him 10 years ago before he died. He was a great person. And he told me the story of his grandfather. You see the guy here, Edward? Edward was the grandfather of Francois. And Francois told me about the story of the company, how it became a great company and how it is that now it is the #1 in the tire industry in the world. That was the end of the 19th century. There was a guy called Marius who came and knocked at the door of the company and said, I would like to work for you. The chief of staff looked to Marius, listened to him, and asked Marius, do you have a degree? And Marius said, I have no degree. I left school when I was 15. But I'm not an idiot. And I know about printing stuff because I've been working in the printing department of a company not far away from here. And this chief of staff liked the guy and sent him to the printing department of Michelin company, because in Michelin they had also a printing department. When Edward Michelin heard about that guy Marius, who came to the company and was sent to the printing department just because he had no degree, he was very much upset. And he went to see his chief of staff, and he went to speak to him, and he told him, you're an idiot. You send a man whom you don't know to a printing department where there is nothing very creative and interesting to be done, just on the foundation of the fact that that guy has no degree. You're an idiot. Remember one thing always, you should break the stone in order to discover the diamond, which is hidden inside. The diamond that is hidden inside. This was the vision of Edward Michelin. There is in each person a diamond, and the stone has to be broken in order to discover the diamond. And Michelin, this is what we speak in French, Michelin told his chief of staff, send Marius to the international department. I want him to sell our products on the international markets. And in 2 or 3 months, you and I will decide where Marius has to work. We know nothing about Marius. Give him a chance. I want to know who is that guy. So Marius went to work on the international department, and he was, in order to convert the currency very quickly, he invented a very small ruler. But he knew nothing about mathematics, because if he left school when he was 15. So Edward one day saw on the table of Marius this little ruler. He took it in his hands. He looked at it and he said, this guy is a genius. He understood immediately. And he sent Marius to research and development. At that time, the problem was that the cars were going faster and faster, but the tires were still the same, the traditional ones, that the car could explode at any moment. I mean, the tire could explode at any moment because the tire was no good, The car was good, but the tire was still the old one. Nobody understood what was a tire and how you stop the process of heating of tires at high speed. During decades, nobody understood how do you do that. And Marius Miniol, after a few years working for Edward, invented alone the very famous radial tire that you see here. The radial tire that changed the whole industry of tires all over the world. This is this guy. So this guy was a nobody who became an incredible guy. He became the most famous engineer of the 20th century in the field of tires because of that guy. And you and I, we have to be that guy. We have to be Edward. There are many Michelins on earth. There are many Marius on earth. Many, 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 many. People with a lot of talents, but they don't know they have talents. But you have guys like Edward, and they are not many. And we have to multiply them. These are magnanimous people. You should break the stone in order to discover the diamond which is hidden inside. So Edward was very interesting in discovering the diamond hidden in each person, and he transformed Marius into a great human being. You understand that? This is what we call education. This guy is a businessman who is a philosopher, who is a doer. And first of all, he's a father for Marius. He's a coach for Marius. He's a teacher for Marius. You see the difference. Marius had parents. His parents never, never, never saw in him specific gifts, specific talents. The first guy in his life who noticed those talents was Edward Michelin, because Edward was a magnanimous person who was looking all the time for the diamond hidden in each person. And that's why the company Michelin is the #1 in the tire industry in the whole world. It's because of the meeting of those two people. Education. This guy is an educator, educere, bring out the talent, the best that in each person. This guy, Darwin Smith, he was the same thing. Darwin Smith was the CEO of Kimberly-Clark during 20 years in the United States. He operated a complete turnaround of the company that was during many years producing, during 100 years, they were producing coated paper. But one day, Darwin Smith, when he was appointed CEO, he looked at his employees and at his management, and he said, guys, you have become functionaries. I don't like that. I don't like functionaries. I don't want to be a functionary. I propose that we change 100% of our strategy. And he decided to sell 100 years of his corporate history to sell all the factories in the United States, to sell the whole coated paper industry, and to invest that money in consumer paper. And Kleenex, Huggies, that's Darwin Smith. The idea he has in mind is my people are becoming functionaries because we have a product, coated paper, that has for which there is no competition. That's bad, bad, bad. No competition means no quality, no greatness for us and for our products and for our company. So he decided to enter the battle of competition and to fight against the big giants in the field of consumer paper, 3M, Procter & Gamble, Scott Paper. And people say, okay, let's try. And Darwin went in the battle. And after 3 years, he had better results than all those companies I just mentioned. And this company is the number one in the consumer paper industry in the whole world. And the media, Forbes, Financial Times, accused Darwin Smith during many years before the success of the operation to be a madman, you see? So guys, this is what magnanimity is about. These guys are educators. They are thinking about their people. They are thinking about themselves. They want to dream. They want to transform their dream into a mission. They don't want to be small. And they are not afraid of what people are going to say about them. They are not afraid at all. They don't care about people. They don't care about the mob. They just care about their personal growth and the personal growth of the people they're serving. And they achieve results. So if someone tell me, well, guys, it doesn't work. Well, look at Darwin Smith. It's the number one. Kimberly Clark is the number one in the world. Look at Michelin Group. It's the number one in the world. So don't tell me it does not pay off. Of course it pays off. On the long term, it pays off. This is the way to build a real empire and to serve humanity, Okay, guys. So I go quickly. There is another guy. We don't have much time now. Herb Kelleher. This is an incredible guy also who was a servant of his people. And he was used to say, we don't have human resource in our company. His company, he's the founder and the CEO. He died a year ago, but he was the founder and the CEO of Southwest Airlines, which is the number one in the United States, low cost transportation. So it's a very successful businessman. And at the same time, he was used to say, we don't have human resource department in our company because I work with human beings, not with human resources. People are not resources. People are an end in itself. So we have a people's department, but we don't have any human resource in our company. Never heard about that word. He said, that's Stalin. So this is what I wanted to mention, you guys. It is the beauty of remembering that greatness is about human beings. And I finish with that guy. That guy is not a magnanimous. It's important for you to have a vision of what are the magnanimous people and what are those that are not magnanimous. Steve Jobs loved things, not people. He had no clue, no vision of what is human greatness. This guy was in love with things. Look at what he has in his hands. A gadget. These are gadget people. They love the beauty of things. They love the design of things, but they don't love human beings, and they don't even love themselves. They have no vision, no clue of human dignity. And the way they treat people is very, very bad, very wrong, not human. So don't make any mistake, friends. And this is what I tell you: education, greatness, magnanimity. It's about spiritual growth. It's not about building an empire. It's about building people that maybe build empires. But if you build an empire and you destroy the people that build that empire, the only thing you've done is wrong, and it is not magnanimous. That's what I want to tell you guys. It is that education, magnanimity, educere, it has to be linked to all the aspects of your life, professional life, personal life. It's a way of thinking always in terms, it's not enough to be good. It's not enough. I need to achieve greatness in my life. It's not enough to be the good one. Like Martin Luther King was used to say, the problem of humanity is that there are too many good people. They are not good enough. That's the real problem. So greatness is what is needed. Greatness is what you and I, we need, and we can develop it. And I recommend you very much to watch my videos and to read my books. I've written 7 books. And that's it. So I have finished. Thank you very much, guys. If there is a few questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I will have some minutes spent here with you now.
Thank you very much, Alex, for the wonderful presentation. I got a few things. At least something you said which I liked was, there are too many good people who are not good enough. So hopefully from this conference, I'm sure we, the attendees, will try and see how to be good people who are good enough. So we're going to take a few questions before you leave us. So I will just try to read out the questions from the chat box. Some of them are similar, so I'll merge them together. So the first question is from Charles Monday. He's asking, how do I clearly know where I belong among these 4 groups without being biased with myself? So I think he's trying to find out how to know where he belongs without being biased to himself. I think second question says, can one who is slow at self-discovery be a great person? Can everyone be great? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I tried to understand.
Okay.
Ask me the question very clear because I don't get everything.
Okay. Can one who is slow at self-discovery be a great person? Can everyone be great? And the first question was, how do I clearly know?
Okay, let's come back to the first half of idea because I don't have memory, so I need one question for the others. Yes, you have certain people who are very low in order to get to know themselves well. Don't worry. What you just need to do is you need to think that you need to get to know yourself. To be slow has nothing to do with to be slow or quick has nothing to do with magnanimity. Nothing. If you are a melancholic person, you will need a lot of time to get to know yourself well, because you're slow but you're deep. So you will get more results. You will get more results, but it will take more time for you. If you're a choleric or a sanguine, you will go very quickly to different things, different vision of yourself, different elements, but this doesn't mean that this is the truth about you, because you have a certain tendency to superficiality. You get? So you're quick, you're spontaneous, but it doesn't mean that you are deep, and it doesn't mean that you understand exactly what's happening in you. So don't worry about time. What is important is the process. You are trying to study yourself, trying to understand who you are. You ask questions, you make tests online, you read Alex under Harvard books, and then after you reflect and you come to a conclusion. Don't worry about time. Don't worry about being slow in your reaction. Some melancholic people, phlegmatic people are very slow in their reaction to external stimuli. That's normal. That's the way they're done. That's the way God wants them to be. You have a lot of melancholic people who are great people. I just spoke about Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was 99% a melancholic. He became a man of action because he developed the virtue of audacity, but he was not born with audacity. He was born with melancholy, greatness. With the melancholy, there is the capacity to reflect, to contemplate, to think, to write. He was a poet. He was not a man of action. He became a man of action because he brought people of action close to him to teach him action. You get it? So make the difference between temperament and character. Each one of us can become a great person. All the 4 temperaments are represented in leadership and in greatness. Darwin Smith, I mentioned just a few minutes ago, Darwin Smith at Kimberly-Clark was 90% at least phlegmatic. You got it. So many great leaders, great people were not choleric or sanguine people. They were the opposite. They were slow.
Okay.
They were slow.
Okay, so we have two more questions. So the first one, sorry, I'm trying to, sorry. Please send your question to the Q&A, not the chat box, because it's quite difficult to read them from the chat box. I'm trying to go to chat box now. Okay, how do you distinguish between love of hard work and magnanimity as it relates to Steve Jobs, because he's widely known to be a hardworking man?
Yes,
Did you get that?
Yeah, but that's very simple. I mean, hard working has little to do with magnanimity. I mean, of course, the love for work is a good virtue. It's a virtue of industriousness. It's a part of the virtue of justice. But this has nothing to do with magnanimity. I know a lot of people who work day and night and are totally unjust, for instance, because they don't spend time with their kids, they don't spend time with their wives, they don't give others their due. They just focus on themselves and on their lives. So all their lives about themselves. So magnanimity, of course, requires a lot of work. If you want to do the great thing, you have to be capable of doing it. So you need to work. But I repeat, the danger with many people is to misunderstand industriousness, make the confusion between industriousness and activism, what we call in America workaholism. So workaholism has little to do with magnanimity. And I will tell you even one thing more. Many people that are all the time on the run, they are running from themselves because they are afraid of having time to think about themselves, because there is nothing inside. There is a void. They are afraid of the spiritual void of their lives. And this provokes in them a desire for permanent action. Permanent action in order not to think about the void of your spiritual life. And I think that if Steve Jobs would have spent more time thinking about the void of his personal life, he would have become a great person. But he was not.
Okay, so I have two more questions before you leave, since you have to leave us early.
Yeah.
The question is from Daniel. His question is temperament biological? If so, can one graduate from one temperament to another?
Okay, no, the temperament is, yeah, it's biological. Normally people have two temperaments, what we call a dominant and a secondary. So you have to make an investigation about what is your temperament, but you cannot change your temperament. You're born with that. What's going to happen is that you're going to be developing virtues. So if you are the choleric, you develop the virtue of humility, and then you become a better servant. But it doesn't mean that you have become a sanguine, not at all. You're still choleric with virtues. If you're a melancholic and you develop the virtue of audacity, you become a very active melancholic. But this doesn't mean that you have become a choleric, not at all. You're still melancholic, but you have virtue that bring action. You understand me? So if you are a sanguine and you have developing the virtue of endurance, of stability, of this will help you a lot. But this doesn't mean that you become a choleric or a phlegmatic. You understand me? So the idea is that you cannot change your temperament, but what you do, you compensate the weaknesses of your temperament by specific virtues that you have to develop.
Okay, so we're going to take 3 more questions, and then we finish with your own session. So this question is, of the 4 temperaments you've mentioned, which is the best to be able to achieve our needs in life? Of the 4 temperaments you've mentioned, which is the best?
4 temperaments are extraordinary. There is no best temperament. All the 4 will give you the capacity, if you know yourself well, and if you discover the virtue that is a challenge for you, then all the 4 temperaments are represented, I repeat, in leadership. All the 4 temperaments are representing people who are very successful. Moses, he was a melancholic. St. Paul was a choleric. St. John was a melancholic. Okay, King David was a sanguine. Abraham was a phlegmatic. So guys, look at that. Those guys were all of them very successful. So don't ask me about what's the best temperament. The best temperament is the one you have. This is the way God wants you to be. So you have to admire your temperament. You have to love it the way you are and develop the virtue that is spiritual. That is going to be the challenge for you, the specific virtue that are going to be the challenge. Love yourself the way you are.
Okay. So what combinations of temperament and virtue do we need to make money? Lots of money.
Do we need to make money for what? I don't understand the question. What's the relationship between money and temperament? Can you repeat the question?
So the question is, please, what combinations of temperament and virtues do you need to make money? Lots of money.
Well, I have no idea, because you have a lot of people who can make a lot of money without having any virtue, any virtue at all. So virtue has nothing to do with money. What happens, it is that normally when you work on your virtues, you develop what we call human effectiveness, because a virtue is not only a perfection of nature, a virtue is also a power. You know, the Latin word virtus means power, which means that a virtue is the capacity to do certain things. So if you have the capacity to make right decisions, prudence, the capacity to stay the course, courage, the capacity to give each one his due, the capacity to direct your emotions and passions, you have what we call the capacity to be an effective human being. So the virtues develop in human beings, what we call human effectiveness first. That's okay. So in normal situation, the more you have virtues, the more you are efficient as a human being or effective. You understand? And this can bring a lot of money, of course. But you and I, we know that life is much more complicated. And there are many things in life that don't depend on us. Many things that don't depend on us. And you will discover that the majority of great people, they have suffered. Many were, Thomas More was beheaded. Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. Martin Luther King was killed. So what happens? That many things don't depend on us. And in the world in which you live, if you are really virtuous, well, you can be killed. You can be killed, my friend. If you are not virtuous, probably you will never be killed, because people will never think about you. But if you're virtuous and you have a plan for your life and the plan for the life of many people, and if you want to change the world, well, the possibility of you to be killed or die of hunger is very high. So don't make a distinction. I finish here saying this thing. Success is not a word for you guys. The key word is fullness of life. Fullness of life. Plenitude of life. This is what is important for you and for me, not success. Human success means nothing. Absolutely nothing. When Joan of Arc was killed at the stake, is it success? When Thomas More was beheaded, is it success? Well, success is not a word for you and me, guys. The only key word is fullness of life. And this is what leadership teaches us.
Thank you very much, Alex. So we have many questions coming, but we can't take all of them due to time. Do you mind to share with us your slides, because they were quite good, and some of us so would like to meditate on it afterwards, if possible, to get your slides.
I will think how to do this.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're very grateful. So we're going to go back. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. So thanks to all those who have stayed so far. So I'm very grateful to our keynote speaker, who has spoken very well and then who has set the tempo for today's conference. So we're going to go quickly to the students and presenters. For the first presentation, so we're going to skip to have the presentation by Ife and Raphael. So they'll be speaking to us on the power of reflection against the culture of the immediate. So they'll speak for 50 minutes and then to be able to also, okay, sorry. So have a speaker who has come, Ngozi Francis Ngozi. Sorry, Ife, sorry. I think I've seen the person who had planned to skip. Francis, Can we hear you? Ngozi, okay.
Hi, Francis. Can you please unmute? Okay.
Okay, yes. Okay, so Francis is going to be speaking. He's going to be speaking on historical role models of leadership and counter-revolution. I think his presentation is going to follow the line of Harvard dialects. So, is Francis ready? Francis?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. You have 10 minutes. So please fire on.
Francis, this is technical crew. Please feel free to turn off your video
Let me
if the
share
sound
my.
is. Please feel free to turn off your video if your network is not strong enough. We can go with just your audio.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, Francis, please. Feel free to turn off your video. If
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Feel free to turn off your video if it is not, you don't have a very strong internet connection, but we can hear you.
Let me get my slide, please. Let me share it. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Francis, we can hear you. Francis, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Francis, please carry on. We can hear you.
Okay, my presentation to be on seeking a solid education in a liquid society, historical role models of leadership and counter-revolution showing us the way. Okay, I start with education. Can you hear me, please?
We can hear you, Francis.
Yeah, Francis,
Okay.
if we can't hear you, we'll let you know.
Okay. So education is a process of facilitating learning, acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, morals, beliefs, and habits. Some of the educational methods we have are teaching, training, storytelling, discussion, and directed research. Now, what is a solid education? A solid or good education should be able to make a man better. A good education should facilitate quality learning all through life among people of different ages, creed, religion, and region. A solid education should be able to offer knowledge, values, skills, beliefs, and moral habits. The question is, can we possibly get this solid education we seek in a liquid society? In a society that is constantly and rapidly changing without values, due to insecurities and instability and individualism. A society where one is pressured so as to align with everyone else. A liquid society, the very essence of the world where we live in, is rapidity, permeability, and mutability. A society where nothing lasts, where everything is in a constant change. What our liquid society offers today, we have historical models who have always set the pace for us. We have them from politics to the industry, from education to religion, from medicine to literature. They have lived examples for us that we must emulate. These men and women have stayed the course all through their lives, maintaining predictable in terms of what they believed.
That's through your phone.
They,
so
they,
that, okay, it doesn't matter.
they have shown us the way. They have true trust because they were able to be predictable. Though their lives were not always loved, they were not always loved because of their consistent focus, but they were able to lead through trust. Their character informed their leadership. These models of leadership and counter-revolution refused to become discouraged, even when vilification. They refused to be named among timid souls whose lives stood for nothing. They were resolved to fight to the end. They were resolved to fight to the finish line and claim their prize. Some of these models include Lech Walesa, the Polish electrician who founded the Solidarity Union and made a signal contribution to positive changes in the whole of Europe, in Poland specifically, and then Eastern Europe. We also have Robert Schuman. Robert Schuman was the French Minister of Foreign Affairs. He saw the Franco-German friendship as a fundamental precondition for European integration. We also have Ronald Reagan. He had a vision that contradicted the main political currents of his time, and above all, his dealing with communism. He was able to, that his efforts in attacking the influence of communism in the whole of Eastern Europe saved the world we have today from the bad effects of communism and the system of government and maybe business. So these are their pictures of Lech Walesa and Robert Schuman. We also have other notable examples. Our very own Dora Akunyili, the former Director General of NAFDAC. Dora came to the forefront of the fight against drug counterfeiters as the Director General of NAFDAC. You know, her own leadership was that of courage because many times attempts were made on her life, but she stood firm. She was focused in what she believed, that at that time, counterfeit drugs had killed more persons than even AIDS. She was very resolute. She at some point was hailed as one of the finest and most committed leaders the African continent has ever had. Thank God she's very close. She's very close to us. She's Nigerian, she's African, so hers too should be a model for us to follow. We also have another female, Cory Aquino, the former president of the Philippines between 1986 and 1992. She was a political visionary. She stood up courageously after the assassination of her husband, the popular Benigno Aquino, and became the focus against the autocratic government and President Ferdinand Marcos. This woman had the opportunity to just continue with that autocratic way of government, but she did the otherwise. She set up independent courts to question her authorities. She set up the legislature to limit her powers. She is for us also a model of leadership. So this is Dora and this is Peter. Now, okay, there are many others that we can learn from. You have Peter Stolypin in politics too, Francisco Michelin as the guest speaker spoke about in business. You have Jerome Lejeune in science. You have Don Maria Escriva in religion, Pope John Paul II religion, and Alexander hen needs in literature. These persons were attacked for what they stood for, but they were courageous. They were magnanimous. They were humble. They endured. They were consistent in their focus to give humanity a better face, to give the world a good leadership. They were resolved to do good, irrespective of the persecutions they suffered. Some of the virtues that they had were magnanimity, humility, courage, self-control, justice, and prudence. You see, all the human virtues, they displayed all of them across the various fields of life they were. So how do we emulate these persons? We must say no to conformism and prepare to swim against the powerful currents of egoism, relativism, and materialism that is sweeping our world today. We must be able to fight against the perfectionist tendencies in us and be ready to take corrections. We must be patient. It starts gradually. Virtue is like wine. They grow. The older it grows, the more mature it becomes. We must beware of the garden variety of deviousness. That friction that we experience from others. That frictions we experience from others can only make us better and shed off some of the projections that are not helpful in our lives, in our well-being, in our character. And then we must also be aware of the tendency to go easy with ourselves so that we do not derail from that hysterical struggle that will make us virtuous leaders in our various.
Thank you very much to Alex. Probably network issues. I'm sure he had a very good presentation, but network isn't give him the opportunity to give us the presentation. So we're going to move to the next speaker, who is Ife Sumoyiwa. He'll be speaking with Raphael Kochioja, and they'll be speaking on the power of reflection against the culture of the immediate. So please, can we kindly welcome Ife Sumoyiwa? And also, please let's try to keep the time. It's 15 minutes for the speaker, so let's try to keep the time. Okay, so Ife, the floor is yours. Can you please
can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, yes.
Okay. And can you see my screen?
Yes, your screen can be seen, so you can proceed.
Okay, thank you. Right, so my name is Ife Shomiwa, and I am a student of Atlantic University, and I'll be talking about the power of reflection against the culture of the immediate. Unfortunately, Raphael will not be here with me at the moment, but I will be talking on behalf of both of us. Thank you. So first of all, I'd like you to look at these pictures. We first of all would like to point out that I'll be talking about reflection and the culture of the immediate. And so the first picture, there's Homer Simpson saying a few days, but I want it now. And then in the second picture, there is someone that is contemplating their past, present, and future. Now, to move on, we would need to first of all understand what reflection is. Now, reflection means to think deeply and carefully, as shown on the screen. And you might wonder why reflection is important. I mean, it's nothing big, and probably people talk about it all the time. But is it that important or significant? Well, yes, it is, because it helps you to build character, and it helps you to dive deeper into thoughts and emotions and understand yourself. Because in reflection, you need not just remember, because remembering is not the same thing as reflection. You can remember things and dismiss them, but when you reflect, you remember and recall certain events so as to learn from them, so as to build on them and to keep moving forward. This is a quote from Jordan B. Peterson. He said that reflection is for straightening out the past, understanding the present, and making a sophisticated plan for the future. When you reflect, you obviously have to look back on the things that you've done, the mistakes you've made, the things you've done right, learn from them, knowing what to do right and what to improve on every now and then. And of course, when you do that, you would understand your current condition. You understand to look at where you are right now, and then building up on that, you can now plan for the future, knowing the things you have reflected upon, knowing what you've done wrong, knowing what you can improve on. And that is why it's very important to reflect, because without reflection, pretty much we would be just doing everything every single day without any substance or any character to it. When people ask you, why do you do what you do? You may not be able to give a reason because you haven't really thought deeply enough about yourself and the things that you do and why you do them. And it's very important to do that, or else we're not people of substance. And we need to be people of substance to make a difference or change in the world. Right, so the next slide, we'll be looking at the benefits of reflection. Now, reflection allows you to gain perspective, which is something that many people tend to overlook, give enough attention to. With reflection, have you ever had that argument with a friend or maybe misunderstanding with something that you were reading? And then you look back at what you were reading or whatever conversation you were having with your friend, and then for a moment you can understand why there was a disparity between your understanding and somebody else's. That's why reflection is important, because you can look back and understand maybe an argument from an opposition's point of view, or without doing so, you would never really be able to understand, and you consistently have a closed-minded view towards things. You'll not be able to build and develop things because you would seem to be the type of person who only has one mindset and doesn't want to understand the view of others. So that is one of the benefits of reflection. Another is that it helps you to respond more effectively. Responding more effectively, you might also wonder sometimes or think, can you reflect in very tense, very call for maybe a very important decision? In those type of situations, you would have reflected in the past, knowing how some things have turned out in the past, how some things didn't work, and bring it to your present situation, which is what I was referring to before, in understanding the past, in straightening out the past and understanding the present. So you'd be able to, straighten out the past, you'd understand the present, know how to bring what you learned from the past into your current situation and make very quick responses, which is why reflection is important. And it's not just a thing of luck when you make quick decisions. It's better to have reflected than to make decisions based on just how you feel about a certain thing. And then, of course, it prompts learning and understanding, which is still a mixture of the first 2 points and the benefits. Because when you reflect, you can understand a few things better. And even when you're studying for exams or some presentation that you have, you can get a deeper understanding and meaning of what you have read or what you are reading when you reflect on it and try and think deeper about the subject matter. Right, the next thing is we have a culture in which everything is given to us like that. We get everything every single time we want. You order something on Jumia, you get it maybe a week later, because you've already had that mindset that you're going to get it as quickly as possible. And we've gotten so used to that because the world is pretty much that way all the time, because there's no need to slow down if the future is now. There's no need to wait and think on whether there's something you can improve on or try and understand a bit better if you can just get the results right now. And so the culture of the immediate is characterized by instant gratification, as you can see on the slide. And with the culture of the immediate comes the idea of the faster, the better, or whomever can provide whatever the fastest. And another question I want to ask is, who does this culture serve better? And what is the biological mechanism behind it? And that'll be explained in the next slide. So in this slide, you can see Buy Now, 24/7, and KFC. You're probably wondering, what do these things have in common? Well, it's all about the culture of the immediate. Now, Buy Now is just an immediate response. It's immediate prompt to making you to buy something that you've probably seen, you like, you have the money for it. However, you know that there's something else, but you see Buy Now in red as well. So that is meant to prompt you to immediately want to buy what you want to buy, to act on impulse and not to reflect on whether you need it or not. And the KFC in relation to the Buy Now is colored in red. Now, red and orange and yellow have been scientifically or otherwise tested or proven to be colors that initiate a quick desire for something. Now, when it comes to food, it apparently arouses desires for hunger, which is why you constantly see a lot of, even Chicken Republic, for example, they have a red sign. So it's to make you want to eat more. It's really, what I say, using that mechanism you have of wanting to satisfy your immediate needs or wants by using the color red to say, hey, we're here. Come and get it now. And then, of course, the 24/7. Now, that's not red, but it is what would I say? It is a development based on what has occurred due to the culture of the immediate. Now, before in the past, you would have to wait every now and then. Maybe you buy a new DVD set, and then you're trying to install it and do all that stuff. And then you realize there's something that you don't understand. Now, you'd have to wait normally for maybe a few days to the week before you can get a response on how to work on it. And then you get there, but then it's sometimes not exactly as easy and fluid as you want it to be. So now the 24/7 thing came up as, okay, we need to satisfy people's need for help and urgency on matters instantly. So 24/7, the 24/7 service in many places was a result of that. And the next thing is that the effects of the immediate. The immediate effects is what I termed it. It reduces your ability to be patient, because then you don't have to, on whether you need something or not, you most of the time just want it right now. Then it diminishes your capacity to think, also in relation to one becomes that you have instantly. And of course, it makes a person
It seems you're having network issues. If
but you suddenly want to buy something. Am I?
it seems you're having
is it-
network issues. So yeah, you probably is a way of telling you that it's time. Probably network is telling you that it's time to round up.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
But you can hear me right
Yes, we can hear you perfectly well.
now.
Yes, we can hear
Let me
you.
just round up this quickly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the relation between reflection and the immediate is that reflection would help you to recognize when you are addicted to something, for example, because I had a cookie addiction, would I say. And that was because I would constantly just want to satisfy my craving for cookies. And so a lot of the time I'd look back and think, well, now I need money. I probably shouldn't have spent it all on cookies. And think, why do I want this? Is it necessary? And of course, businesses understand this because they have retreats. Retreats are for reflection. And that reflection would help you understand the things you be more efficient at. So that when you do come back into the work, and this thing I thought about it, creating this, nothing else to do, and you satisfy all your needs and desires. Why not think about whether those things were necessary, about thinking and think about the things you've done in the past that you could improve on. So being bored is not necessarily always a bad thing. It might be a call to reflection. And so I would like to thank you for this talk. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ife. So please stay with us. So we're going to take the presentations, after which we are going to call you back to answer questions which are going to be directed towards you already. Some persons have sent in their questions already, so I'm sure more will come in. So stay back with us, and then we'll be able to give you the questions that are meant to be answered by you. So we're going to go back to the next presentation, and the presenter is going to be Obona Kingsley Kenechukwu. She's going to be speaking on why the Nigerian public universities cannot provide a solid foundation in a fast-changing world. He's making a statement, so I'm very eager to hear what he wants to say. So please, let's give the floor to Kingsley Obona. So we can see you. You seem to be a chief priest because you have many things behind you that make you seem to be a traditionalist, but no problem.
Okay, just a minute. I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay, it's.
Okay. Can you see my screen? Is it up?
Yes, so you can see us. Can you make it full option? What's it called? The full view.
Yes, I am.
Thank you, perfect.
Oh, good. Hello. I'll be talking about why Nigerian public universities cannot provide a solid foundation in a fast-changing world.
So can't hear you so well, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's a bit better, yes.
Okay, thanks. So we'll be looking at the definition and general knowledge of education. Then we'll look at Nigerian university education in the Nigerian context. Then we'll look at the problems that they have. We'll now try to establish the purpose of university education using John Newman as an example. Then we'll look at Finland university education system as a case study. Then we'll now prefer solutions. Moving on, the word education is gotten from two Latin words, educere and educare. So educere means to draw out, to lead out. That means drawing out the potentials in an individual, helping someone to bring out their innate abilities. Then the second word, which is educare, means to nourish, to rise up, to bring up. So if you should combine these two words, you can get something like the education helps to bring out the potentials of an individual in order to nourish and to raise its full essence. So education is the acquisition of knowledge, skills, value, moral, belief, and habits. So it's not just for you to pass a subject. That's not the purpose of education. So there should be skills, there should be competence, there should be attitude expected of an educated person. So there should be change in character. That's like the main purpose of education. So the knowledge, yes. So what do you now do with the knowledge you have acquired so far? Is it just for you to pass the test, pass the particular class, and move on? So if we move on now to look at education, I would say that the first educator is God, the creator. So we can see how he instructed Adam to do this and do that in the garden. So you remember, education is to impart knowledge, to impart skills, to change character. So in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15 to 17, we saw the creator telling Adam how to run his affairs in the garden. So you can say that God is the first educator and Adam, the first student and the first person to receive an education, although in an informal way. From then on, there have been different types of informal educations, like coming of age rituals in Africa, where the young boys, the young girls pass through different rites, which would help them acquire some skills, imbibe in them the socialization, what is expected of them. And also we had the folk laws where most of the time you see they are didactic in nature, trying to teach the young child the do's and don'ts and the things that are expected of him or her in the society. One thing was notice that education is, the purpose of education will be to change the society. So you cannot be saying that, okay, we are impacting on education, we are impacting learning, without actually those things reflecting in this society. Then, as of come of a formal education, now we have the sophists in Athens who moved from house to house. Of course, the rich ones who could afford that employ their sophists to teach their kids and others. Then, what could look like a university came up with the cathedral schools. University of Stanford in Tibutu. Our focus is Nigerian public universities. Can you hear me? Since our focus on Nigerian
Yes.
universities. So thank you, Joshua. So a research by Fafunwa in 1991 shows that the report from the Commission of Higher Education in the colony shows as of 1990, 1945, so the Nigerians have always demonstrated a quest for knowledge. Then they saw education as a tool to really free themselves from the oppression of the colonial masters. So remember what we said, that education is to better the society. So here, they saw education as a weapon. So they feel that, okay, by studying, by really imbibing the real things that education is for, they'll be able to stand on the same pedestal with their colonial masters. And of course, that's what happened. So Nigerian universities started with the establishment of the University College Ibadan in 1948. So which means that Nigerian schools get their degrees while studying in Nigeria, although London awarded the degrees. It's later metamorphosed to University of Ibadan. Then came up University of Nigeria and Nsukka, Bafemi Awolowo University Ife, University of Benin, and the rest like that. Then we could see that those who had university educations could not only stand out in the society, but even in their private life. So the purpose was achieved. So we had good mathematicians, good educators, good professors, not only in the field, but also in their personal life. So an educated person, there's a distinct mark, is an educated person, and those of them who didn't attend universities. So like, you see that they were deliberate efforts, they were set out objective, practical objectives. People that at the end of this particular course, at the end of this particular section, at the end of this fellow's university education, you could see that really there's a change in behavior. And when they join the larger society, you could see also that they have affected the society in a very good positive way. So now, what's changed? That should be the big question. What's changed? Why is it that it seems that the university education that we get from the public universities, that they're not mundane? But these other guys that got it earlier before us, they really tried. We really saw it in them. Why are Nigerian public universities living in their past glories? And what could be done to salvage this situation? So I've divided this problem to three interconnected things, which are the curriculum, the lecturers, and the government. If you look at the curriculum that we use in the university now, you see that they are outdated. So there are a lot of courses, a lot of things that you do that they don't even benefit the individual, talk more of it reflecting in the society. The number of courses the student takes, what is being taught. So like most times, even as a student, you notice that this thing you are learning now, you can't even pinpoint what you do in your life, in your private life, talk more of how you use it in the professional life. Yes, there are approaches that are used on matters. So some courses are updated that can be removed, but they're still there. The method that you use to push them out, the method that they use in teaching them to outdated. So you go to some universities, you see a particular class of 150 students. So how do you think that these people will get that impact? Moving on, so who now handles the curriculum? That's now only source to the lecturers. Yes, the university have this policy of employing the best graduating students and the best brain in the class. It's also good we understand that teaching is not just about knowing about the concept. It's about being able to pass it on to others. And that's where pedagogical skills come in. So you shouldn't just employ this guy and push him into the classroom. Have you really imbibed in this person what it takes to be a teacher? So you see some lecturers, they come into the class and they are dictating their textbooks, which most times are outdated. So you see them dictating it word to word and all that. But then, apart from the curriculum and the lecturers, there are people that actually oversee the university, there are people that actually oversee the country. Which now brings us to the government, the federal government, the state government, and the university governing councils. So these people make policies that are not really practicable. They say that a student should take this particular course, this number of units. So most times you hear maybe at freshers orientation in the classroom, they say at the end of the first year, the student is expected to pass a particular number of units. But does it mean that that student has been taught? Does it mean that student knows that? Let us not forget the issue of la cram la course. So you might not really have imparted on that student, but he has really done this to pass. Now we'll look at what Cardinal Newman called the idea of a university. What a university should be like, what university education should be. So Cardinal Newman said that education should be pursued for its own sake, not just as a means, but as an end in itself. And in doing this issue, it requires a pastoral relationship between the teacher and the student. That is, the teacher should fill up this position, let us put it like the mentor-mentee thing, and not the slave-master mentality, which are obtainable in most public universities. So it should be that this person that is in the know is leading the other person that is not in the know. Well, how would this be achieved in our universities when a lecturer is taking 400 students? You see? Cardinal Newman also argued that the pastoral gift needed for research and theory are quite different, and that research is best conducted outside universities. So research should be like, go to the field, go to the industries, get what is needed, and not just you sit down in your offices and you are writing theses and doing all this without really reflecting, without really going out to know what is needed. It's funny how students are giving project topics that the students can't even relate to. It doesn't even add to their personal life, talking more of the larger society. And most times these things are dumped in the offices. So the universities are the highest level. At the academy of the university education, is provide high skill level manpower, which is vital to economic and national development. So what can we do about this? It's one thing to say, okay, this is bad, and it's another thing to really make a move to counter that and to make it better. But we need curriculum review. Really, even if it means that we should abandon what we have now, take our time, reflect on what we really need now. What is the moving trend? What is it that can be achieved?
Hi, Kingsley. Sorry, Kingsley, you have 2 minutes to conclude. 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on. So the lecturer should be people with best brain, not just best brain, with industry exposure. Their workload should be reduced, and modern methods of teaching should be introduced to them. They should be trained and retrained periodically. And the federal government, they should allocate good budgets to the university education. They should provide adequate learning environment, and of course, oversight would, okay, these things have been put in place, but are they really being used? Some classes have smart boards, but they're just there. Nobody uses them. So we look at Finland. So Finland is a country that really everybody is there giving the thumbs up that they are good and all that. But the source of Finland can be traced to the educational reform of 1970s. So efforts were made. Most of their first presidents and prime ministers were university professors. So you see these people, they know what is needed. They know that if they actually get it right from the educational level, that the whole country will be transformed, really. And then what can we do as students? What can we do as students to do this? Number one is to do the right thing. So go for your classes, get good grades, don't destroy the university's facilities, at least the ones we are managing, and all that. And of course, study to get good grades. This is what Jose Maria had to say about study. Students, form yourself in solid an active piety, be outstanding in study, have a strong desire for professional apostolate, and the vigor of your religious and professional training, I promise you rapid and fair-reaching development. So my final word, we have to first become the change we desire. Education comprises more just than good grades, which are of course important, but other human, social, and cultural aspects. We are in a skill-driven age. Get up and be up to date. The purpose of education is to better the lives of others and to leave our society better than we found it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kingsley, for the presentation. So we're going to move next to the next presentation. Please stay back and also check the question box for questions which people may have for you. So we're going to move to the next speaker. He'll be speaking on characteristics of the next generation of young people. Can we have Okotum Isemine, please?
Good day, everyone. My name is actually Akane Uchidube Richmond. So I'll start sharing my screen.
Sorry, can Kingsley please stop sharing the screen? Kingsley, thank you, perfect. So I can create room for Okitimate to share his own screen.
My screen.
Okay. So can you please close your PowerPoint? I think you're still sharing the screen. Okay. Okay. Okay, so Ketimate, can please share your screen now?
All right. Second.
Please tell us your name and your institution before you present. Thanks.
Right. Good day, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. We can hear you clearly. Please
right.
proceed.
My name is Akane Buchidbe Richmond. I'm from the Institute for Industrial Technology. I'm currently on my second year studying electromechanics, and I'll be talking to you about my topic, which is the liquid generation, characteristics of the next generation of young people, and the role of TVET in creating the next generation of young leaders. So, moving on, let's talk. Firstly, we are talking about a generation that has the ability to change with the world, a generation that can adapt to the new technology and adapt fast, a generation that in every sense is liquid in their thinking, a truly liquid generation. I wouldn't want to start reading my slides for you. So as I in the process of this, I'll be talking about, take you on a kind of a roller coaster ride. I'll tell you some facts from the lost generation down before I get to the truly liquid generation, generation alpha. The lost generation from 1890 to 1915, these people, they fought during the First World War. They were alive during that period. And after experiencing one of the most gruesome wars in the history of mankind, they were in every sense lost spiritually, mentally, physically. You could tell, the massive loss of lives really had a hit on them. So they were lost. Their poets always wrote about that's where they got the name from, the lost generation, the way their poets always wrote. Going down, we talk about the greatest generation, aka the GI Joe. So they are called GI Joe because these are the people that fought during the Second World War. The Second World War actually started in 1939 and ended 1945. But the people born during this time, from 1910 to 1924, were the ones who fought during the war. The reason they called them GI Joe was because of the fact that they fought for what was right. They made a lot of sacrifices. They fought against they fought for human rights because of the way people like Adolf Hitler, the Holocaust, the Chinese kamikaze bombers, and Mussolini. That's why they were called the greatest generation. Let's talk about the silent generation from 1925 to 1945. This was during the Great Depression. So from the picture, I know 3 trades, I speak 3 languages, I fought for 3 years, I have to, so let's not talk about. So from 1925 to 1945, there was a depression. After the war, the economy was bad and there was drought and chaos. So the people born during this time were called silent because they grew up expecting a hard life and they didn't speak up. There were no marches, people didn't really stand up to this. Can I echo this? People didn't really stand up to what they wanted. So they were called silent. Moving on, you talk about Generation X from 1965 to 1979. And this was when the fall of the Berlin Wall happened. The Berlin Wall was built by the German Republic of Germany. This was to separate Western Germany from Eastern Germany, which was Eastern Germany was controlled by the German Republic, while Western Germany was controlled by the Allied forces. So it was a war that was meant to ideologically and physically separate these two parts of the country. This was during the Cold War. And also, just for you to know, this was also when disco came up. This was the rise of disco. Moving on, let's see. So Generation Y, this was when the internet came back, not came back, but was the birth of the internet. From 1980 to 1994, you could see Amazon, Google, Facebook. Most of our billionaires now, okay, I think two of them are very, you have Bill Gates and you have Mark Zuckerberg. So this is when they came up. They were very lucky to be born during this time. They had everything they needed to actually start up something. So now moving down to Generation Z. I am a Generation Z person. So from 1997 to 2012, we were called the always on generation because we're literally always on. We are the most social, the most connected, the most creative of all generations so far. I'll also talk about Generation Alpha. We're the most creative, the most global, the most visual. A lot of companies would rather employ Generation Z because we are very creative, and with the way we think, we are very versatile. Now, to Generation Alpha, I have to give them one slide of their own because it's your presentation. So Generation Alpha to 2013 to 2025, these are our kids. You could see children using an iPad, so it's amazing. It's similar to Generation Z in every single way, but they will be more immersed in technology, and I'll talk about the fourth industrial revolution in the coming slides, but I will also talk about the similarities and their strengths and weaknesses. They'll be stronger at our strengths and weaker in our weaknesses. Well, this is where it comes in. So what are these characteristics of both generations, Z and Generation Alpha? What are our strengths? We are very adaptive, creative with the current technology, versatile, and data consumers. We're also very financially minded. So Generation Alpha, just like Generation Z, will be stronger. They'll be more adaptive, more creative, more versatile. They'll consume more tons of more data than we do, because they imagine 10 gig in a day. That's already happening right now. So they'll be more financially minded because during that period, they'll have a lot of cryptocurrencies and money is going to be. So also we have weaknesses, but weaknesses like being depressed due to social media. It has really made us very disconnected from from having human relationships. Emotionally intelligent, we are not very emotionally intelligent because of we are very distant from each other. We rather talk to people on our laptops than real life. Moving on, what are the challenges they are facing, except for the fact that social media is causing a lot of problems? Let's talk about poverty, being unemployable. I'm bringing it down to Nigeria, the suffering educational system, which a lot of us have already talked about. Peer pressure and social media influence, that's very common. So about the suffering educational system, we already know how terrible our educational system in Nigeria is. It's producing unemployable people, and unemployable people mean poverty. So you see the lineup. The suffering educational system produces unemployable youths, and the unemployable youths, it means it's going to be poor people everywhere. Now, going further, let's see. This is a slide from proshareng.com. This is an unemployable chart from the first quarter of 2015. I think that was Buhari, when Buhari came in, to the second quarter of 2020. That was late last year. So you could see that the unemployment rate shot from 7.5% to 27.1%. Imagine 27.1% of all the young people in Nigeria are not employed. And yeah, it's terrible. It's awful. It's very awful. This is regardless the fact that we have not taken a Celsius, any current census. So this is with backdated data. So you could tell it's actually probably more than this. It's definitely more than this. Moving on. So I talked about the fourth industrial revolution. What is the fourth industrial revolution? Basically, the fourth industrial revolution is an industrial revolution that is going to be propagated by artificial intelligence. You could talk about your Google, your iPhone. Siri tells jokes nowadays. So imagine if Siri can tell jokes that are actually funny. Imagine how it will be in the next 15 to 20 years. It's going to be amazing. So the fourth industrial revolution is already in play. It has changed the way we value things and the things we value. For example, a lot of jobs that are available now, 15 years ago, the jobs talk about Internet of Things. 15 years ago, you couldn't switch on your light bulb with your phone. Android phones are not even available 15 years ago. So a lot of jobs you have now were not available back then. And it's going to be the same thing 15 years from now. The first industrial revolution is already in play, but I'm talking 10, 15 years from now, and it's going to be in full. We're going to be fully inside the fourth industrial revolution. And this is the revolution of generation alpha. I hope I'm not moving too fast. Try and slow down a bit, don't mind me. So let's move. Going further, TVET as a way out. What does TVET bring to the table? It's sustainability, entrepreneurship, and innovative ways to solve problems. So I'll talk about sustainability in the educational system. If TVET is properly incorporated into the educational system in Nigeria, generally it's going to be more sustainable, because I'll talk about this sustainability part when I'll talk about the TVET in Germany and how Germany has been able to achieve a sustainable educational system. So it brings to the table sustainability, entrepreneurship, and innovative ways to solve problems. I'll also talk about these innovative ways. So in entrepreneurship, in the sense that when you equip people with skills, because that's basically what TVET does, equip people with skills. When you equip people with skills, they are able to start up their own businesses and employ people. I would like if you could tell me when I have maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes left. They equip people with skills, and with these skills, people are able to start up businesses and employ people. And when the educational system gets better, it eradicates poverty. And so you are killing 3 birds with 1 stone, basically. Moving on, I would also and what is TVET? What is TVET? You've heard TVET like 5 times already. So TVET is technical vocational education and training, and this is basically education and training which provides knowledge and skills for employment. And skills is something we already lack in Nigeria. Well, most of the skills we have are roadside skills, because a lot of the Nigerian youths are not really bred to move into the skilled industry. We just go to the university, get the knowledge, and most of my math teachers were engineer teachers. Most of my math teachers were engineers, and my physics teacher was an engineer. But basically, everybody that taught me science was an engineer, and I don't see them doing any other thing except for teaching, because they just have the knowledge and not the skill. So TVET brings into the system this skill that makes our workforce globally employable, which is very nice, which is something that will be very beneficial for Nigerians. Okay, so going further, I said I was going to talk about TVET in Germany. Yes, the dual vocational system. Now, this is a system that ensures perfect balance between education and skill acquisition, in the sense that in Germany, it's a law that as soon as you're done with your secondary school, you have to learn a vocation. And in the process of learning this vocation, you have to spend half your time in school, half your time in company. So you spend a few weeks in school, then the next few weeks you're in the company, you're working there, you're getting paid, you're basically practicalizing everything you've learned in that first few weeks already. So when you keep switching back and forth, it creates a very, 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 the system is very, very, is a nice and very accurate system. And a lot of companies have also said that this is the best way for them to get employers, to get people to work for them. Companies have said the dual vocational system is the best that they have seen so far in getting workers. Oh, I'm moving fast. TVET in Nigeria. So TVET has found a home in Nigeria, and a lot of institutes. They are everywhere. They're all over the country. Well, I would like to talk about my institute, IIT, the Institute for Industrial Technology, and its role in advancing TVET in Nigeria. So the Institute for Industrial Technology has efficiently mirrored the dual vocational training system that Germany uses. So in the Institute for Industrial Technology, we train our students in school and in company. We have different packages. So we have the 6 months, we have the 2 years. So we train these people because we are trained to be technicians here. So we train our technicians for the first 2 years, and the next 10 months after that, you're in the company, you're getting paid, you're working, you're practicalizing everything. And even during the school, a lot of practicals are always done. 30% of the work is done by the instructor, while the remaining 70% is done by the students. So we are giving projects. You have to find creative ways to solve problems that we are not even thought about. So we teach you a topic, give you a project, you and your team work it out. Also, TVET, when taught properly, TVET is also taught with values, with humanities. So we teach TVET here, not just like we teach you how to be a technician and that. We also teach you values. We have a course we call work ethics. And in this course, you're taught everything about being a gentleman, how to treat people. We talk about values, what is right, what is wrong, how to think ideas. We talk about changing the way you view the world, because we see the world as we are. So when you change the way you are, you change the way you view the world. We are taught how to be effective people in society, not just being effective technicians, so that when we solve problems, we solve them as people and not just as technicians. We solve these problems, we're able to relate with the society in a sense. So I'm almost ending. I would like to say we have the raw material, and this raw material is the fact that we are young, the fact that we are creative, bright, versatile, name it. These are our raw materials that we have been blessed with as a generation, Generation Z and Generation Alpha. And TVET is a processing plant that turns us into the next generation of young leaders, because TVET feeds off all these raw materials, our creative minds, our ability to adapt, and turns us into very efficient people, not just in the industry, but in relating with human beings too. I'm almost ending. So this is a quote by Peter F. Drucker. He said, "Since we live in an age of innovation, a practical education system must prepare a man for work that does not yet exist, cannot yet be clearly defined." I mentioned this when I was talking about the fact that 15 years ago, a lot of jobs are not available that they are now. So even a study I was, when I was researching, I saw something. I'm sorry I didn't add it here. It said around 68% of our young children now that are being enrolled in in primary schools are going to have jobs that don't yet exist. So think about that, and think about how the educational system currently, how is it addressing this issue? People are just, how is it addressing this issue, and how do we solve this? That's why I'm saying TVET is a way out, because TVET brings out the fact that TVET can actually, the fourth industrial revolution is in play, and TVET has the ability to forecast and say, let's train students in this particular area. And as they advance, as the world changes, they will be able to move and change with the world. So I would like to thank you, and thanks for listening. Stay safe.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, GD, for the very nice presentation and also very nice PowerPoint. So please stay back, as there'll be questions which will be directed to you. So you take them when it's time for the Q&A. So we're going to move straight to the next speaker. So just have 2 presentations left. So please stay back, as we're going to see how to stick to time. So we're going to move quickly to Ebuka Adigwe. Ebuka Adigwe will be speaking on the trap of social networks, loneliness, and individualism in the liquid society. So he's saying that they are trapping us. So please, let's give him ideas to know how we can come out from the trap.
Okay, good morning.
So please.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you, yes.
Okay, so
so just try to make your PowerPoint to be presentation mode.
Oh, I will.
I think it's F5, or you can go to the lower bar to make it, okay, perfect, yes.
So you all can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you, but okay, yes.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yes.
Okay, so good morning once again. My name is Ebuka Adigwe. I am a student of Pan Atlantic University, and I am currently in my year 2 studying information science and media studies. And today I will be talking on the trap of social networks, loneliness, and individualism in the liquid society. So before I go on to explain more, I will talk on, on a survey. So in 2018, monitoring of 143 undergraduates at the University of Pennsylvania showed that students who limited Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat use to 10 minutes per day over the course of 3 weeks showed a significant reduction in loneliness and depression compared to others who didn't. I mean, all the available literature shows a correlation between heavy social media use and loneliness. But if the promise of social networks is to allow people to connect to one another or with one another, then why are we seeing an increase in loneliness and depression rates linked directly to social media? So before I go on to continue this talk, we'll have to define 3 important key terms that will help us to further understand this whole talk. I will start with the definition of liquid society. So what is this term liquid society? So liquid society can be defined as a current state of instability and uncertainty that change the understood concept of sociology. That is a science that allows us to predict the behavior of persons. What is loneliness? Loneliness can be defined as a state of being in solitary and feeling sad about it. It is a feeling of sadness or even anxiety that occurs when you seek company or interaction. Last term is what is individualism. Individualism, defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is the conception that all values, rights, and duties originate in individuals. What individualism is simply saying is that the rights of an individual surmounts or is more than or is more important than a collective or group idea or rights. So as we go on, let us talk on the rise of the liquid society. So what is this rise of the liquid society? Have there been people that have been able to talk on this rise of the liquid society? So yes, there have. So this is Zygmunt Bauman. So he's going to tell us a few things on what exactly the liquid society is.
It seemed to me, and still seems to me, that this distinctive feature of our condition, which differs us, not from modernity, but from classical, the first initial, original modernity, is precisely the degree of liquidity. I am saying degree of liquidity because all modernity was liquid. All modernity specializes in melting the solids, melting the received structures, the received ways of life, and trying to recast them in different molds.
So, yes. So basically, what Zygmunt Bauman was trying to explain to us is that the liquid society, so in his book, from his book Liquid Modernity, Bauman compared the ever-changing, flexible, continuously transforming nature to liquids. And as you recall from this short video, he said that liquids or the liquid society is more like, it's a solid, start off as a solid, and then as time goes on, it is now dissolved or melted into liquids and reconstructed to how the society deems fit for continuation of its whole process. And then this is another person, an Italian philosopher. Zygmunt Bauman is a sociologist, and this is a sociologist. Umberto Eco is an Italian philosopher who has explained to us that this world that we call liquid society began to take shape with the movement known as postmodernism. It developed between mid-later 20th century and even become more evident in the 21st century. Now, our movement towards a software-based modernity has brought enormous change to all aspects of life and living in this society, changing the framework with which we experience certain sections of human life. A journalist and a researcher, O.J. Castellino, claims has replaced traditional patterns with undetermined existential choices and a widespread of consumer capitalism, where short-term living is a virtue. And that is why Zygmunt Bauman said in the liquid society, life is transitory rather than permanent, focused on the immediate rather than long-term, and regards utility as prior to any other value. So what is the result of what he has just told us? So the result is not too far-fetched. It simply means that, one, survival is no longer marked by the persistence of one tribe or community, but now it is marked on how much more successful, wealthy, self-developed, self-reliant, self-reliable one is. So this will also our next division of this topic is social media and the liquid society. So how has social media affected the liquid society? So social media started within the liquid society is not an era that was bettered in and of itself. It has been heralded by the rise of the internet in the late 1990s. So what you're saying here, the internet allowed people to achieve things that were never been possible to achieve, creating new platforms for upsurge of social structure. For instance, Facebook, which started in 2004 by Mark Zuckerberg, which was made initially for Harvard students, and in the first year had about 6 million users, was meant to just connect students within Harvard University. But as time grew and as it expanded, it became worldwide, and now almost everyone is on Facebook. And with the initiation of Facebook idea, other social media started coming up forward, like Twitter, which started in 2006, Instagram in 2010, Tumblr in 2007, Snapchat in 2011, and TikTok in 2016. So basically, what am I saying here? As the internet has become a commonplace, the collapse of a model or community in the liquid society has given rise to unrestrained individualism in which people are no longer fellow citizens, but rivals to be well. People now begin to compete for followers, attention, credibility, fame, and social currency. So there is no longer a common good to contend for, but an individual good to aspire to. So while social media emerged with the promise to join people together, foster bonds and establish communities, it ended up creating networks. And that's why Zygmunt Bauman here says, he establishes the difference between the two, communities and social networks. He said communities aren't created. You either have one or you don't. What a social network can create is a substitute. The difference between a community and a network is that you belong to a community, but a network belongs to you. You are in control. So what I'm going on to continue now is like, what social network can create is a substitute. Sorry. No. Okay. Unavoidably, this impacted ways we communicate, socialize, and form relationships. With the block and mute button, the archive button, which different social medias give us, we are in control of what we do and talk to people. Unlike before in the past, whereby if you want to talk to someone, you have to go to that person's house. But now, if someone talks to you in a way you don't like, you can either mute the person, block the person, or archive the person's chat. So with the advent of all this in social media, is now creating weaker links for us. So that's why in the Liquid Society, Professor of University of Salento, Elmer Palace, states the individual becomes an isolated nomad. That word nomad, always looking for new forms of socialization, which instead of providing safety and welfare, increases the gap between man and the self and between man and the other. It is a social system that, despite in possession of increasing innovative means to communicate and interact with our fellows, generates discomfort and loneliness. So Umberto Eco, I mentioned him before, the Italian philosopher, asks us, is there a way we can avoid or escape this trap? And he also provides us with the answer. The answer, what he says, is that we have to, first of all, create awareness that we live in a liquid society. That's the first step. It's commonly said that a problem said is half solved. So we need to identify this problem and make awareness that we live in a liquid society. We need to fully understand what it entails to be in a liquid society, because we do not fully understand what a liquid society entails. And apart from understanding and making aware that we live in a liquid society, we also need to develop new tools to understand and to overcome it. So what am I saying now? I'm concluding now. So basically, I'm going to end with, we cannot deny that it is becoming, and very quickly, a matter that needs to be resolved to protect the interest of the general public. The loneliness and depression rates are skyrocketing, and our attraction to individualism is causing the fabric of society to decline. So I'll end with the words of Zygmunt Bauman. Living under liquid modernism, conditions can be compared to walking in a minefield. Now, in walking in a minefield, everybody knows that an explosion might happen at any moment or at any place, but no one knows when that moment will come and where that place will be. So if social media is the problem, and then we are identified and know that it causes more loneliness and individualism in the society, I think therefore it's not be wise, it's either we deconstruct and construct back social media platform in order to, or social network platform in order to bring us together, or we do away with it completely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibuka, for that very nice presentation. So we're going to move quickly to the last presentation so we can have room for Q&A. So please stay back and wait for those who will ask questions. While you're waiting, so you can kindly check the Q&A for the questions which may have been asked to you. So we're going to go to the last presentation, and it's going to be by Ezando Sixtus Ebube. He'll be speaking on social media, the media for antisocial relationship. I look the play of words here. So waiting for Ezando Sixtus Ebube.
Okay, let me share my slides.
Okay. Wow. So please, you have 10 minutes, so try and stick to time so we can be able to round this up and take Q&A.
Okay. Good day, everyone.
Yeah, good day.
Can you hear me? My name is
Yes, we
Ezadum.
can hear you and we can see your slides perfectly well.
My name is Ezadum Sixtus Ebube, a medical student of the University of Ibadan, currently in 200 level, and I'll be presenting the topic social media, the media for antisocial relationships. So I'm going to start with a brief introduction of social media. So I'll go way back into time and I begin with distance. Well, distance has actually been a barrier in terms of communication. Okay, and they've been a need for a faster way to disseminate information from a source location to the end receiver. And so when the email was introduced in 1971, it was a solution, or let me say it served as a solution to that problem, in the sense that people could actually send messages files, and various other things, and hold various other activities, even when they are not in proximity. Okay, and hence after then, other social media we are created, and then the Facebook, Twitter, and all, they were created to help advance this communication bridge. I mean, the distance itself of communicating with one another over a far place. And so social media has actually been very much effective and helpful in, like I said, messaging, file transfer. We even have platforms for video call, news updates, advertisements and marketing, and of course, official meeting. So this is just my problem summary of how social media has actually made us antisocial. So virtual friendship, lying is made easier. Social media stealthily steals from family time, and expression of love is now more worthy and watery than physical interaction. Physical expression of love is limited. There could be data breach and certain secrets which shouldn't be seen by many others. I mean, by other people actually leaked. And it's very, very easy to be mean on the social media, and pretense in the media is highly intense. So according to a post by NY Post, that is New York Post, it stated that Neta Ghana, a popular social media influencer, openly claimed to have no one to share his time with. I mean, no one to have a personal interaction with, despite his over 2.5 million followers. So this shows us that social media presents, or shows us shows that social media gives us this illusion of having friendship, virtual friends, whereas in reality, we are actually distancing ourselves from them. Another thing that this social media has actually caused in our physical relationship with one another is that it has made lying easier. The art of lying is as old as man. I mean, everyone lies. And something as simple as, how are you? I'm fine. It's even when you are not really happy, is actually a lie. So the social media is just like helping advance this skill of man. Like, it's so much easier to lie on social media. Just type in a few words and then spread the rumor, spread the news, and get many people to believe your lie. So social media, of course, as we see now, slowly steals family time. I mean, it's a very, very subtle way of dividing families, of dividing spouses, dividing couples. Because you could imagine a family table, probably having dinner, a family having dinner, and then the mother is clicking some stuff on her phone. The father is chatting with some clients who is more important, in quotes, than talking with his own family. And the kids, while away, chatting with friends and all. And this has given us, or it has shown that it it is slowly stealing time from us, stealing time, basic interaction, even within the family. I mean, the family that is the strongest bond, so it's even slowly stealing time from us. According to a research, 20% increase in Facebook accounts that have been opened accounts for about 4.3% rise in divorce rates. And this number is growing every year. With this growth, with this exponential growth, you can see that there is actually a threat in marriages, I mean, in the bond of marriages, and it is linked to the increase in use of social media. The expression of love is watery nowadays. Imagine, let's look at this scenario. You have a guy and you have a date with someone. Okay, you meet online, fine, and it's so easy to chat with the person you're talking with. But when you finally get to see yourself physically, it seems like you don't even know the person. Like you doubt if is this the person I was chatting with. So it has actually given us the illusion of being a public speaker on the virtual or digital world, whereas in real life we are more dumb, speechless, and with like finding it hard to really communicate with one another in reality. So there is limited expression of love with the social media, like hugs, kisses, and touches, and physical touches are unavailable on the social media. These are basic things that defines our emotional attachment with one another, but the social media doesn't provide this. And so when a particular couple, for instance, or lovers try to share intimacy with one another by probably sharing their nude over the internet, certain things could happen. There could be a data breach, or there could be a leakage of those pictures, and such leakage could create some mental and psychological effect on the person whose news has been exposed. It could lead to shame, it could lead to self-guilt, it could lead to stigmatization of such person, all because the person was trying to express himself through social media, something which is meant for just one pair of eyes to see, and now the more than one pair of unqualified eyes are seeing. So it's easy, so much easy to be mean on social media. Social media encourages, we are behind the screen, they can't see our face. So it's easy to criticize someone. When someone makes a post or something, it's so much easy to degrade the person. And most times this degradation of people leads to depression and mental illnesses, or a feeling of lack of self-worth. So pretense is actually, yes.
A minute more, so hope you're running up.
Okay,
you have a minute.
Okay, it's actually easy to pretend on the social media, and then the social media does that, allows that. So what are the solutions? First, I think we have to learn how to curb our use of social media. Turn off your notifications so that you don't get tempted to be on social media every time. Time yourself. Always set time so that you have more time for physical interactions. Get busy with a new type of fun. Get a skill, learn a skill, and let that be a substitute for the time you waste on the social media. Set days when you wouldn't log in at all. Have a detox at least for once. Then make social media a reward for productivity. So let it be that, okay, this week I was probably 70% productive, then I can use the social media, not an activity or a daily routine. Then reward yourself when you, like what I've just said, when you've achieved a certain goal. So I hope I've been able to try to talk to you and then share with you one or two information on why you should reduce the level of the social media usage, and describe how it has actually affected our emotional, physical, and psychological interaction between one another. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sixtus, for that very nice presentation. Kindly check the Q&A box for questions which people may have asked. So we thank all our presenters. We thank all the 6 presenters who spoke from the Pan Atlantic University, from the University of Ibadan, from the University of Benin, and from the University of Lagos. So thank all of you who have presented. So we're going to go quickly now to hear from Honorable Justice Obwabo. He's a justice of the Enugu State High Court. Prior to becoming a justice, I think 2 years ago, he was a lecturer, both at the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, and he was also a lecturer at the Nigerian Law School. So kindly join me in welcoming Honorable Justice Obwabo. He'll be speaking to us on some of the presentations that we've made. Obviously, since many of us made references to the university system, and then this was a former lecturer as well too, he will share more insight into how to have solid education in a very good society. So Joseph Wabo, you have the floor, my lord.
Thank you, Joshua. I want to thank all the presenters, from the keynote speaker to all the gentlemen who have made presentations this morning, from Kingsley Obuna's presentation on why Nigerian public universities cannot provide a solid Akanebu's paper on characteristics of liquid generation, the how far generation, to Ebuka Adigwe's paper on the trap of social networks, loneliness, and so the paper on characteristics of liquid generation and 62's paper on the media for as a media for antisocial relationships, and the last presentation. It's been very, very interesting presentations. I must tell you. Now, you see, talking about solid education or quality education, especially in Nigeria's public system, public university system, there is no doubt that times have changed. There's no doubt that our education system has become falling on dilapidated structures. The issue of funding, lack of funding, has rendered most of universities comatose. Most of the universities are living in their past glories. So it's problematic. On the other hand, we also find that today we are living in a society that is so unstable, so uncertain, that nothing is certain about the future. So it's a very interesting topic to talk on getting solid education in a liquid society. I mean, you have all said it all. If you look at everything that you have, what we have tried to look at this morning, you see that it boils down to thinking outside the box. That we can no longer pretend that all that used to be will work for us today. So my first thinking is that acquiring solid education in a very unstable society or fast-changing environment like the one we have today means that one really has to think outside the box. And today, you see that preferences are changing. Before, it used to be, it must be law, it must be engineering, it must be medical sciences. Today's realities show that we can no longer insist on those what I may call, in quotes, core areas. Today, you see that entrepreneurship studies, studies on artificial intelligence, software, engineering, and so on and so forth, are taking the lead. That is the effect of the times we are living in. And so today's students must get to be in tune with the realities of our times. Secondly, talking about pedagogy, the manner of teaching, one of the presenters have talked about it. Today, we may no longer have to rely on the handouts or even exclusively on recommended texts by our lecturers. You find also today that as a result of poor funding, UN documents we talk about 26%, but how much percent do we have in our present? How much do our government fund our universities? As low as 6% in some cases of annual appropriation budget. 7%, at most 8%. The kind of dedication you had in the past from our lecturers is no longer there. Many are no longer really committed. So you find that for our students today seeking to acquire solid education, they must have to do a lot more for themselves and by themselves than on what the teachers used to do. And so we must be prepared to rely on alternative resources. And thank God, a lot of us, most of us, have one gadget or the other that have access to the internet. Today, we have to rely more on internet sources than the physical library. The virtual library contains more than anything you can get in any. In fact, if you look at what Nigerian universities have today, if you take the physical stock, pie stock of books, you may not compare it with anything you can have in one e-library, SSRN or Westlaw or LexisNexis and so on and so forth. So the student who wants to acquire solid education today in our very liquid society must have to make optimal and maximal use of these resources. Again, you also find that today, like I said, many of our universities are living in their past glory. So it's not about going for the big names anymore. It's about going for universities and college where you get what you want, what you really want, where they offer the courses that is really needed for today. So it's not about the big names, it's not about names anymore, it's about what the universities or particular schools can offer, depending on the curriculum and the courses that are offered. Now, again, I want to talk about another aspect of acquiring solid education in our liquid society, and that's about the issue of funding, because funding is very critical. We used to rely on our parents. Those who came before us, most of those who are even in government today, many of them enjoy scholarships here and there from our government. But today, where are the scholarships? The government is no longer funding scholarships as such. So, and a lot of our young persons who want to acquire solid education lack the funding, especially when you begin to go to postgraduate. So one of the things I find from my experience as a teacher is that grant research writing has not been path, especially at the undergraduate level. So the curriculum has to change somehow. Even the students today on their own need to do a lot to go on the internet, get information on research funding, on writing grant research requests, so that they can get fundings, both from those available internally and those available from external sources. This is one way of bridging the gap in funding for solid education in our very fast changing environment. And like one of the last speakers said about, one of the last speakers, about time spent on social media. I think also that it is about time we also need to have refocus. We need to focus on relevant things and leave out irrelevant things. The time we spend today on social media appears to be much more than we really spend on our educational needs. We need to look at that seriously. Any students who want to acquire solid education today in these changing societies must really have to have a good focus on use of his time on social media. More time should be actually accorded to educational needs rather than the social media. Social media is important, is good, but we really have to look at what we are doing with the social media. So my attitude or my advice, the way I look at it on acquiring or navigating social solid education in our liquid society is that the key words here are about adaptation, innovation, and change. These are the key to acquiring solid education in the very liquid society of fast changing and uncertain times we have on our hands. Thank you, gentlemen, for listening.
Thank you very much, my Lord, for that very insightful contribution. And for some of you to know, my Lord taught me in the university many years ago, so I'm very grateful that that's here also to speak. So we're going to have a short break to be coordinated by Shego, just to make us to just try to stretch our legs and our hand, because for some of us to be sitting down for the past 2 hours. So it's a very short break, and then so we're going to come back for the Q&A. Shego, please, over to you.
Hi, everyone. It's good to have you all here. We've been here for 2 hours, 30 minutes sitting down. So I think that we should have at least sort of like a break for us to push our bodies a little bit. So I'm going to share my screen, pardon me, and we are going to have just a little bit of exercise. I want everyone to stand up. I see people are moving on
The screen is not shared. Are you hearing the sound? Are you hearing the sound? The screen is not shared, Shego.
Why are you hearing the sound? Are you hearing the sound?
Yes, we can hear the sound.
Yeah. The sound is not
You don't try no do better rest. You don't try no grieve, better rest. Not intentional. Feel the pressure now when you come to my face. See as I spray the dollar now, that's intentional, international, unconventional grace. Conventional grace. It goes down when my G's connect. No disconnect. I the catch cruise forget. If you talk, you collect. It goes down when my G's connect. No disconnect. I the catch cruise forget. If you talk, you collect.
Okay. Thank you very much, because I feel a bit relieved. Okay, so I'm going to go quickly to the Q&A so that we can take the questions. So the first question I'm seeing here is to who now? Okay, I think this is to Ife, since he spoke about immediacy. So we have a question on, okay, can you please spotlight Ife? Shago, can you please spotlight him, please? Ife. Okay, perfect, yes. There's a question for you, I think, from Olumayowa Ogunkoye. Can you see the question?
Yes, I saw the question. I read both of them.
Okay, so can you please just give us a 1 minute answer so we can move to the next question? Quick, please.
All right, so the first question by Olumuyiwa was asking if there were any benefits of the culture of the immediate. So the benefits that I found out when doing the research was that for people like businesses and for people as individuals, the culture of the immediate, although for individuals in the long term is not exactly the best thing, it does have the advantages, or its advantages for people who would take advantage of it. As I was mentioning in the presentation, such as KFC, those people that sell things online that say buy now, and the 24-hour service. Or 24/7 service. So with those things, businesses have taken advantage of the fact that people want immediate results. They, for example, with the 24/7 service that has now been provided, which was as a result of people wanting quick service, people wanting answers quickly on certain things. Businesses have taken advantage of it. So there is a benefit for businesses and for individuals. If you can respond quickly to certain things, it's sometimes, actually most often than not, considered a very important skill to have as a person, being able to be fast about certain things, being able to deliver as quickly as possible. A lot of employers are looking for that. So it has its benefits because of the culture that we are important still. But the immediate, or the culture of the immediate, if you can take advantage of those people, of people wanting immediate things, because there will always be those people. Not every single person is going to have time to reflect. Not every single person thinks reflection is important. So you can take advantage of those things as they have become more prominent in our society.
Okay. Second, so the second question is for you.
Yes. The second question was how we could reconcile spontaneity, spontaneous creative ideas, and the need to reflect before acting. So with the immediate, for example, there's something that we should always account for, which is that if the immediate or instant gratification is going to take the place of something that is much more important, or is going to get in the way of something important, it would always be a bad thing. So if there's something you need that you know you have to do later, but you want to satisfy yourself now, it's always going to be a bad thing, because then it would prevent you from doing that thing you need to do in the future. Now, with being creative, doesn't necessarily, and with reflection, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be slow. Now, as I was trying to explain before, reflection, I will give an analogy of a ruler. So if, let's pretend we have 3 parts of a ruler, right? So this is a ruler. Now, if you want to create a ruler, for example, you would need, let's say you had to combine 3 parts to make a whole ruler. Now what you want to do is have to reflect every now and then. Then you create a certain aspect of the ruler. When you reflect another time, maybe a week later, you create another part, and then you keep creating a ruler. Now, in creating that ruler, with reflection, you have made a sort of measure that you can carry with you when you are reacting to things that need immediate action, or whenever you come up with an idea, for example, as you were trying, as the question was trying to pose. When you come with a creative idea, what you want is the idea to work, right? So when it doesn't work, a lot of the time in this culture, people just move on to the next thing. So, okay, this didn't work. Let's go to the next idea. Let's go to the next idea. They don't look back and ask themselves, why didn't it work? With a lot of creative people, they have written down reasons as to why it didn't work. For example, the light bulb. The person who invented the light bulb, I've forgotten his name. His name escapes me at the moment. But he failed a lot of time before he got it right. So you can have an idea, but you have to reflect back on what could be improved upon and how you can keep moving forward. So just key thing, reflection doesn't mean you have to be slow. And reflection can help you even be faster in dealing with things as you would relate it to the past, so that you can help yourself in the present and build your future. So that is all I have to say in relation to those questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next questions are for Obona Kingsley. Can you please spotlight Kingsley Obona? I hope you're still here with us. Kingsley Obona. Okay, perfect. So you have 3 questions. Can you please try to answer them in 2 minutes, 3 of them? So merge the questions together and give us an answer in 2 minutes. Thank you. 3 questions, 2 minutes. So we can't hear you, Kingsley. We can't hear you. We can't hear you still. Okay, while you're trying to resolve that, probably we can move to the next person, because we don't want to waste any further time. So we can move to...
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you now.
The first question is, what methods do you suggest that would be employed to select lecturers who are not just intelligent, but also able to pass on knowledge to their students. So as I already said, it's one thing to be intelligent and the other thing to you be able to transmit that. So in a class of 25 students, there are people that truly they're on first class, they are up there. And then there's this other student who is on second class, but has been able to teach his classmates through tutorials. This guy have the skills that are needed to teach. You can pick that guy, or you send the other guy that is on first class to training on pedagogical skills. That is, this if he acquires these skills, will help him to state objectives, measurable objectives, be able to take his or her student from the known to the unknown, and then class control. All these things help in the learning process, not just about the lecturer appearing and talking. So there are processes that you introduce the students to what they already know, then you link it up. So for us to get what we want, train and retrain. You need to train and retrain so that they can be on top of the trend. The second question said, do I think these solutions would solve Nigerian problem? How feasible is it? Yes, when we have worked on our curriculum, gotten what is really needed for our students, when the lecturers are doing their part, the governments have allocated a good budget for education, and we, the students, we study, we do things that we're supposed to do. Why not? Like, what else do we expect? What else? And then the third question said, do you think this solution? So the third question says, it's talking about the population as what contributes to the problem of public. Yes, our numbers are big, but if more lecturers should be employed, so there is this thing that happens that 3 lecturers are taking one course and they're teaching 60 students. Like, what if we make it in such a way that, okay, we split that class into 3. So this lecturer takes and this lecturer takes, and maybe one lecturer does the introductory class for everybody, and then we take the tutor level. Yes, in University of Ibadan here, our general courses, we do it at tutor levels. So the classes are split into smaller units. I think it will be better. That would help with the issue of population and class control. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we have the last question, and it's for Chidubem Richmond. Can you please spotlight Chidubem Richmond? And before Richmond comes to answer, let me just make a very brief clarification. So I'm asking for schools that came to present, so we have FUTO, I have the Institute of Industrial Technology. So these are more schools that came to present as well. So please, Chidubem Richmond, can you please answer your question?
Okay, so the first question I'm seeing, the lost generation, the silent greatest generation, I'm not sure why they are qualified as such. Okay, maybe I was too fast in my explanation, but why are they qualified as such? Simply because of the things that happened and the way they reacted. The lost, they fought in the war, the First World War, and after that, they were lost. They were, imagine, nobody, you don't want to experience what war is. You know, I've heard about the Biafran War and everything, and so war is not something nice. War is terrible. So after that war, they lost their family members. The world was a mess. You could walk around, you see dead people, you see tanks destroyed, you see mines still alive. You know, so it was terrible. That's why they were called lost. They after the war, they had no sense of direction. The silence, this was after the Second World War. And so after the Second World War, there was still this economic breakdown because the world has already gone through 2 wars already. And these people didn't speak up. They were not trying to make the world better. They were born into a world that was already degraded, and they lived in it, and they did nothing about their world. They didn't try to change the world they were born into. They were called silent. Called greatest because they saw things happening in the world and they did something. They made self-sacrifices. They fought the war they had to fight against the Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, you know, the Holocaust and all. And, you know, they did something. That's why they were called the greatest, because they stood up, they fought. A lot of great men were born during that time, a lot of generals, you see people making a lot of sacrifices. So that's why. For my second question, it says, TVET in general, what are the goals? Can it synergize with the tertiary institution to better further the future duration of study? Yes, exactly. This is exactly what we are aiming at. For there to be a synergy between where 1 + 1 is now not equaling, maybe 1 + 1 now is not 2, where 1 + 1 could be 10 or 5, where a multiplicative effect between institutes that teach vocational education and training and universities, because a lot of university graduates, first class boys, they are really mad, they are crazy, they can calculate so many, they are just very good at calculating things. But when it comes to hands-on skills, it's sad. And right now in the world, people are looking for people who can actually work, who can do things. You know? So if there's a synergy between us, it would create it will make more the people who turn out even more efficient and effective. So yes, there can be a synergy. And TVET in general is basically equipping people with skills that make them employable and make them to not become end up being liabilities to the country and to the society. I hope that answers the question. And this can also better the future generation because it eradicates poverty and a lot of factors. It puts you to good use. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Richmond, for your answer. And thanks to all those who have waited till 12:40. We overshot by some minutes, so I'm very sorry for that. And thanks to all those who have submitted questions. Unfortunately, we can't take all the questions today. So we're going to send the presentations and recordings to all those who registered. So we're going to send it to you via mail before tomorrow. So we're very grateful to all those who have attended. So we're going to call on Ikechukwu Onoma to give us a vote of thanks, and we can officially close the conference for the year. Ikechukwu Onoma. Ikechukwu, okay. I think probably he's not with us. Okay, so on behalf of the team of the Univ for 2021, we want to thank the keynote speaker. We also want to thank our guest speaker, Honorable Justice Obwabo, and all the student presenters who took our time to attend and who took our time to make presentations to be able to come and share with us. And we also want to thank all those who attended and who stayed from 10 o'clock to 12:41. So we're grateful and we hope that you've taken one or two things which you would use for yourself and which you can also share to your friends and to your colleagues. So we're grateful and we wish all of you a happy weekend and a very productive year. So all the best and see you next year, hopefully physically, and then we're going to have a broader and a more richer conversation. All the best. Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us. Have a nice day. Have a nice day, everyone.
Okay, bye, everyone.
One book a week, but not many people have time for that. I understand.
Thank you.